It's Devlog Thursday again. The first devlog was on a Thursday, and it's a Thursday again today, so I guess it's a weekly series. We're back to Adventure World, and one of the first things you may have noticed that's different is the date format. It's just different now. Also, of course, it looks different. The background is different, and you may have noticed there's a new sprite here, there's flowers, there's this thing. There's actually a lot. So these are all fox sprites. It's just something I came up with. It was originally going to be an enemy, but then I realized a fox is kind of a terrible enemy for a dog because it should be the other way around. Dogs are the ones that hunt foxes, so I don't know what I was thinking. And this enemy doesn't do anything anymore. The reason for that is that while I was doing some thinking, I realized that I did not like how the combat system was. One of the things I realized is that I've never made a successful combat system before, so I'm going to change that, and I'll talk about what my thoughts were on that later, but first, the next thing that I did is the dialogue system. Hi Mouse, how are you? I'm fine. You? I'm okay, I guess. By the way, where are we? We're in a video game. Really? It's been a while. 4 years to be exact. What's the adventure this time? I don't believe there is one yet. The game isn't finished. Oh. Then what are we supposed to do? As far as I know, I'm supposed to talk to you. As for you, you should probably talk to the other characters to test the dialogue system. Okay. What should I do after that? I don't know. You might find out by talking to the others. Okay, I'll do that. Thanks, Mouse. No problem. Good luck. So, yeah. It's a little dialogue system with text that appears, one character after the other. And that particular system was actually the first thing I worked on back when this was actually a different project, as I mentioned in the first devlog. That's the first thing I implemented. And it's a good thing because it works really well. And if you'd like me to talk about how that works, then I could do that, but it'd have to be in a separate video. Anyway, back to the combat system. The thing I realized is that, the first two games, Adventure World 1 and Adventure World 2, had enemies with contact damage, which is where whenever you touch something you'd get hurt. And, I guess, I just don't like combat. I don't like contact damage. I can't say that. Because it's an attack, I guess, but to me it doesn't feel like a good attack, or one that's fun to avoid, or something like that. You wouldn't put contact damage on the player, but you might put it on enemies. But the problem with that is, if the enemy's faster than you, like they were in the second game, then they're pretty much impossible to avoid unless you manage to attack them from afar, which is something that in, Fort Arohedron, the enemies were all in a big pile and they were just dormant until you got near them, and so what I would always do is I would just shoot them from afar. And the enemies in the cave, the way I'd deal with those is, if I didn't just run straight through them trying to avoid them, which almost never worked, I would try and get a wall in between me and them and just shoot through them, because the walls weren't solid to projectiles, and that was like the only way to kill those ones. In the first game, the enemies were slower than you, and in that case, they were pretty much impossible to die to. It was the other end of the spectrum. If you wanted to kill them, you could just hold C and shoot them with projectiles, and they'd be gone. They posed no threat to you, really. And then, of course, there's the middle grounds where if an enemy moves the same speed as you and has contact damage, then when they first start chasing you, they're not going to gain ground on you unless you let them gain ground on you, because they have the exact same speed as you. And then, once they've reached you, you can't actually escape them because they're going at the same speed as you, so you just inevitably die. And that's my whole story about why I don't like contact damage, and so that's why I opted for this particular thing. But even then, it still wasn't right, because the way it was originally, the enemy did move slower than you, but it had no restrictions on when it could attack. It could just attack. It had a cooldown, but it would just attack whenever it had the chance. So you'd pretty much always get hit by it whenever you went to attack it. And so there was a guarantee that if you went to attack it, you'd lose health too. And then I changed something. I don't quite remember what I changed right now, but I made it to where it had a delay before it would attack you. A significant delay. Well, it's just less than a second, but still pretty significant in the grand scheme of things. So that at that point, if you just attacked it fast enough, which was pretty easy, you could never get hurt by it, unless you were being really stupid or clumsy, or just let yourself get attacked by it. So it's at that point that I realized, I don't know how to make a good combat system. Contact damage is no fun, but that's the only thing I've ever really known how to do. So then, one night, well, after I got in bed, I had this epiphany. Like, oh, this is how I'm gonna do it. And what my idea was is that the whole foundation of the combat system would be that enemies would seem invulnerable. It seemed like there's no way to attack them. Like, even if they're slower than you, you try to attack them, but you can't hurt them. And it would be in those cases that it would be able to attack you, or it may have some projectile that it shoots at you, like the final boss in the second game. That's pretty difficult. And what you'd have to do is you'd have to figure out under what conditions it's vulnerable, and figure out how to trigger those conditions, and then once you do that, get good at attacking and seizing your opportunity when that window appears. Or when you make that window appear. And I actually don't know how exactly I would implement that, but some ideas of how that might work. Like, an example would be the enemies from the second game. They're actually called Mason bots. They're robot bricks. It's a long story. Don't ask. But their invulnerability would be that they could just retract into their shell, or their brick rather, and you wouldn't be able to hurt them. But if you tried to hurt them, then while you're standing there trying to hurt them, then they just attack you really quickly and then retreat back into their brick, and then you'd be sad. So you'd have to figure out some way to make them vulnerable and give you a chance to attack them without getting attacked yourself. And for something like that, I haven't yet thought of what that would be, but still, it's a good start for me at least. You know, I now have an idea of how the combat's probably supposed to work. Anyway, this has been a really long episode. I don't know how long it's been, but I already know it's been long because I've kind of been rambling. But anyway, that's just the story of what's happening right now. I haven't got to do very much because I've been really busy. I'm technically busy right now, but I'm taking some time to make this devlog. I've actually recorded it once already, but I forgot to change that date. That's how the date format changed, is because I just changed it to be shorter so that maybe, you know, since I see a November and I see a number there, a 21, like, oh hey, maybe I'd actually remember to change it if I saw that. I don't know. I'm just still a little bit sour after recording a whole devlog. And then I literally, it was uploaded to YouTube and I was about to publish it, and then I noticed it said 11:14, and I'm like, so I'm redoing it, and I'm going in depth this time about what the plans are. So I'm just going to go ahead and wrap it up, and thank you for watching. Bye.